What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be tackling a tier list. It's going to be a longer type of video. We're doing it live over at twitch.tv/iSUMMON UID. Make sure to check me out over there on Twitch. I'm streaming pretty much every day over there. Click the link in the description. It's going to take you to lootbar.gg. In here, you're going to find your favorite games like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and Zealand Zone Zero, and you can buy their premium currencies at a discounted price. The process is very simple. All you need is your UID and your server, so make sure this information is correct. Then you're going to select the pack that you want to purchase. For me, it's going to be the $99 pack, which here I will be able to save $14 on it, which is a 14% discount. All I have to do is click top up now, make sure that I continue to purchase. And just like that, within minutes, you are going to receive your currency directly to your game. Lootbar also has over 13,000 reviews over on Trustpilot with a 4.9 rating. And some of your favorite Hoyo creators like Dave at Times and Mordex Tryhard are also working with Lootbar, so you know they can be trusted. It's really that simple, fast, and easy, so click the link in the description and check out lootbar.gg. We were taking a look at Prydwens DPS tier list for Memory of Chaos, and I noticed that there was a bunch of things that just didn't make a lot of sense according to their own criteria. One of the criteria is that characters that require other characters to perform at their highest level are seen as a negative. For example, Acheron is probably down here because they feel like he would need Zhao Shou to perform at the highest level, which is true. However, the same thing can be said about Aglaya and Sunday. I don't understand why they did that instead of just putting her down here. Another example is that Firefly is here at tier 0.5, but you could make the argument that she requires either HMC or Fugue to perform at a highest level. HMC being a free-to-play character, that's fine. However, Fugue is another character that brings her to another echelon of level of power. The same thing can be said about Ruan Mei in Firefly's scenario. But also they have Boothill down here, which he can function without Ruan Mei, with Ruan Mei, with Fugue, without Fugue, with Sunday, without Sunday. Boothill doesn't really need much for him to destroy MOC, especially, and Apocalyptic Shadow as well. So by their own criteria, this placement of Firefly and also Rappa, because the same argument can be made about Rappa, them being at T0.5 and Boothill, our boy Boothill, being down here at tier 0 doesn't make a lot of sense. The same thing with Fei Zhao. Fei Zhao is a character that doesn't need any limited character. The closest thing that she quote-unquote needs would be a Bronya, because you can make her work fantastically well with a Bronya. She's a character that most people by now should have at least one copy, and if they don't, they could have just picked it for free. So there's just a whole lot of inconsistencies. Down here, they have Danny Boy next to Dr. Ratio and Kafka. No, Kafka isn't clearing MOC in less than 8 cycles. I'm sorry, that's just what it is. So because of that, I decided to just create my own DPS tier list, and we're going to take it step by step. All right, for the sake of consistency, I did the same scoring system they did over there, and we're just going to dive in. I'm not going to go too crazy into it because it's already going to be a longer video. So as I said before, I believe that, for example, Herta should stand here almost by herself, because at E0 S0, she doesn't need any other character to pretty much function aside from characters that we already have. Like, for example, Baby Herta or Dummy Herta, we can use Serval as well. All characters that we get for free just by playing the game. And she functions extremely well with them. So to me, there is no other competition here. The Herta is just the premier top DPS at E0 S0. All right, following we have Aglaya. Aglaya is also a character that E0 S0 performs extremely well. But like I said before, if you don't have Sunday, she feels pretty bad. She doesn't feel bad, but she feels a lot worse than if you had Sunday. And for that reason, I can't put her in the same tier as the Herta. So I'm going to put her a tier below because she's still extremely strong at E0 S0. Next up, we got Fei Zhao. And I think Fei Zhao goes a little bit further along or before Aglaya. I think Fei Zhao at E0 S0 with the character roster that we get for free, which includes March 7th, the Hunt variation. We also have Moza, which is another, not free, but he's another 4-star character that is completely fine and perfectly strong with Fei Zhao. She doesn't necessarily need a 5-star support, is 5-star DPS like Topaz, for example, to perform at the highest level. The most that she would quote-unquote need is going to be a Bronya, but people at this point, they already should have a copy of Bronya, at least one, because she's been... You could have selected her by now. If you're an old player, you could have picked her up at 300 or the selector. Or we just got a selector like a few patches ago that you could have picked Bronya. So if you have Fei Zhao E0 S0 and you have Bronya, that's pretty much half the way you get March for free. And then you can run Gallagher as your healer or sustain, and that will work just fine. Also, guys, I want to just mention that the further left they are to the end of the tier, the stronger they are. So Fei Zhao to me is stronger than Aglaya in this example. Similarly to Acheron, she feels a lot worse if you don't have Zhao Shu, the same way Aglaya feels a lot worse if you don't have Sunday. Fei Zhao doesn't have that problem, but the reason that she's not at tier 0 is because she is a single target character, and in the current meta, AoE or Blast is looking to be much better than just single target. But even when Fei Zhao is being single target, she's still really strong. Akron, on the other hand, she doesn't need Fei Zhao, but she's a different character with Fei Zhao on the team, the same way Aglaya is with Sunday, and therefore that I can't put her in a higher tier. She does deal an insane amount of damage. So all these characters up here, tier 0, tier 0.5, deal extreme amount of damage. So all of them are very good options at E0, S0. Fei Zhao can destroy stuff. E0, S0, no questions asked. Honestly, guys, I think Boot Hill goes up here too. Falls into the same category as Fei Zhao. He can work with Sunday, with Fugue, with Ruan Mei. He pretty much can work whatever, because you can build him crit, you can build him break, you can build him hybrid, and in either case, he's going to perform extremely well with E0, S0. Again, the reason he is not in front of Akron or Aglaya or even Fei Zhao is because compared to Aglaya and Akron, like I said, single target bosses are not the thing right now. It's not Hule anymore. So we need more AoE or Blast to be able to clear reliably. But even then, you can still brute force with Sunday in a lot of cases, the same way you can do with Fei Zhao, which is why Fei Zhao is here as well. But I think Boot Hill E0, S0 is a fantastic character. Next up, I'm going to go with Rappa. I think Rappa is this tier below, and a lot of people are going to be confused, say, hey, well, you have a single target break character, you just said that it has to be AoE. Yes, but the reason is that Rappa can't implant her own weakness, and all she can do is, while she is in her ultimate, deal 55% of weakness break efficiency that she would have dealt. I don't know if it's 55 or 50. It's one of the two. But the thing is that it feels so bad wasting one of your ultimate turns, your damage window. You're wasting it whittling down weakness instead of actually dealing damage, and that drops her DPS quite a lot. So if the enemies are already weak to imaginary, then that's fine. But if they're not weak to imaginary, you run into a lot of issues. No, but this is at E0, S0 with Prydwens criteria, which is if it needs another character to perform at a high level, then it goes down. That's the whole point, TJ. At E0, S0, the best you can do for her is run her with HMC. And HMC is not going to help her do more weakness damage. It's not going to do more toughness damage with HMC by itself. And that's the criteria. So if she requires Fugue or Ruan Mei or both to perform at a higher level, then they're like, by their own criteria, we have to bring her down. The same thing applies to Firefly. They're both on the same boat. The only difference is that Firefly can implant. That's the only difference. So Firefly gets 100% of the break efficiency all the time because she implants on her skill. What brings Firefly down, aside from that, is her skill point management, which is complete dog shit. Firefly's skill point inefficiency, like, arguably makes her worse than Rappa. TJ, if you have the squad, then yeah, you Rappa's insane. If you're counting the best supports and the best sustains and everything, yeah, Rappa goes up here essentially. However, since we're not doing that, he's saying the free-to-play E0, S0, and if the character requires their best in slot support, then we have to take points away from it. That is the criteria of Prydwens. Exactly, TA. Needing setup is a negative. Like, for instance, Boot Hill, at most, like with the bare minimum, you can run him with Bronya and he deals an insane amount of toughness damage, which leads to break. You can also build him with crit. So you can build him like crit break and whatever, and he still performs. Akron, you have Pella, you have Welt that you can have. You have, what's her name? Gwenifin as well. You can run that team. It works. Her, you can run her with RMC. Aglaya with RMC works perfect. Fei Zhao, we already talked about her team. So the setup is not as strong or is not as much as Rappa and Firefly. And therefore, they're at tier 1. Even though they do deal incredible amount of damage. Like all these characters deal about the same amount of damage. It's just the way and the work you have to put to get that damage and to clear easily. And this is not my criteria, chat. This is Prydwens criteria. Oh, wait, the criteria. Let's look at the criteria because let me see the investment. Non-limited 4-star or 5-star light cone. Oh, that means that Acheron's running what? Fermata? Good Night Sleep Well is a gacha light cone. Yeah, she has no free-to-play option light cones. Yeah, we're going to have to bring her down. All right, so we're going to have to knock it down. Yeah, I forgot that one of the criterias for Prydwens tier list is that they don't have access to any light cones from gacha. So they have to be free to play light cones. And if that is the case, Acheron loses her access to Good Night Sleep Well. And I'm going to have to put her down here because without Good Night Sleep Well, her damage is just almost piss poor, even on her best free to play setup. So I'm going to have to just drop her after Firefly because Firefly doesn't necessarily need any light cone. And then she also has access to Fall of an Eon, which is a very, very good light cone for her because it gives her attack, which she needs and converts to break effect. Rappa, she doesn't have a necessarily free to play option, but she's a break character. She doesn't need a light cone the same way a regular traditional crit DPS character does. So it doesn't affect Rappa or Firefly or Buto for that matter, not having their best in slot light cone. Aglaia uses a 3-star light cone, Stinky. Aglaia uses a 3-star light. Yeah, Aglaia's there. Aglaia uses a 3-star light cone. You can S5 that 3-star light cone. And Buto also uses 3-star light cone. Yeah, the speed one. Well, it is S0, but they like in their criteria right here. Character equipped with level 80, non-limited 4-star or 5-star. If you can't get it at any point in the game, it's a limited light cone. So any gacha specific light cone is a limited light cone. So yeah, Acheron is gonna have to go down because of that. I forgot about that little criteria. Thank you, chat, for reminding me. We're gonna move down the list. We have Yunli. I think Yunli, all things considered, in the right hands, even at E0 S0, and with the release of RMC, I think Yunli is actually very good. I would actually put her in front of Acheron in that example, because she's very, very strong. I don't know if I should put her in front of Firefly, but I would definitely put her in front of Acheron. Yunli is insanely good in the right hands, and she doesn't need a lot of setup. Like, you can run her with 4-star Ting Yun. You can run her with Bronya, for example. You can run her with RMC, which is a free-to-play character. You can run her with, what's her face? I forgot her name. Lynx. Yeah, thank you. Yup. Lynx gives her the taunt that she needs to get hit more. So she has a lot of options at E0 S0. She's just not a popular character, so people don't really talk about Yunli that much. But she's an insanely strong character at E0 S0. She also has access to the Destruction Light Cone Fall of an Eon. So very, very good at E0 S0. I put her pretty much up to par, if not better than these characters in the same tier as her. Since break characters are so much easier to set up, I'll put them in front of Yunli. All right, I forgot that we had 5-star sub DPS, so we're gonna add 3 tiers over here at the bottom: sub DPS tier 0, sub DPS tier 1, sub DPS tier 2, and we're gonna start off with Jade. She's a tier 0 sub DPS. She is the best in slot sub DPS for Herda as of right now, and she deals a lot of damage, especially in the current meta, because even in MOC, right, enemies have a lot of little enemies aside, so it's an AoE meta right now, and she is cooking. Jade is absolutely insane. She can use the free-to-play option Herda Store Lycone. I don't remember the name, but there is an erudition Herda Store Lycone that she can take advantage of, and is very, very strong on her. She also has some supportive capabilities in her skill and makes your main DPS essentially faster. As a main DPS, she's probably not that great because she doesn't deal that crazy single target damage, but in AoE scenarios and even as a sub DPS, she's actually insane, and she also has supportive capabilities. So very, very good sub DPS character. Another character that classifies as sub DPS as well is Tribi. She does ultimate damage, she does follow-ups, and her follow-ups are actually very, very strong. So she's nothing to scoff at as a sub DPS. And the good thing about having Tribi on your team is that she doesn't take the slot of a secondary DPS. For example, in a Herda Himiko team, you have Herda, Himiko. They don't buff each other, but they're both dealing damage. They're both dealing damage at the same time. Tribi doesn't take that second slot, so she kind of takes fit the role of a supportive character because her damage amplification is actually crazy, and then she also deals damage on the side, and not just little damage. She does actually significant damage. So as a sub DPS, I will put Tribi down here in the tier 0 as a sub DPS. All right, moving on. We're gonna do a Black Swan. I think she's a tier 1 sub DPS. I think her main goal right now is to just reduce defense because her own personal dot damage isn't that great. And in the same token, we can actually talk about Kafka. We're going to put her in tier 2 because she sucks. But Black Swan helps the team in more ways than one. She actually reduces defense. She can give you a vulnerability debuff on her ultimate that you can actually take advantage of. So with defense reduction and vulnerability, she can actually help your main DPS deal significantly more damage. But her damage per se, her own damage, let's say if we were to rate her as a main DPS, would be really, really bad. She's not great, especially now with the characters, with the enemies having so much HP, which is pretty much the same reason why Kafka is just down here in tier 2 with her best in slot setup. We won't be able to clear MOC in any way, shape, or form. Dot is just terrible at this moment, especially at E0 S0 with the Kafka. Moving on, I think Dr. Ratio is also in a really tough spot, not only because he's a single target damage dealer, but also his damage output isn't that great at E0 S0. His light cone definitely helps him a lot, and his free-to-play option, which is cruising in the CLC, is a really strong light cone for hunt characters, but it's not even his best like low budget option. I think his best is like swordplay, gives him the most bang for buck when it comes to damage. But since we're not counting any gacha 4-star light cones either, he kind of falls off a little bit. I think he's a little bit better than Kafka, but he's still pretty terrible. So RIP to my Dr. Ratio mains. All right, next up we got Argenti, and then we're gonna double rate Argenti. I can't import another Argenti picture, but as a main DPS, Argenti is like probably somewhere around here. He just doesn't deal enough damage by himself, unless you're doing Pure Fiction. If you're in Pure Fiction, then he's probably up here somewhere. But in MOC and Apocalyptic Shadow, it's kind of hard because he just doesn't deal enough single target damage unless you're using your max ultimate, which is only reliable if you're running Hua Hua and Sunday, and possibly even the 4-star Tingyun to pretty much battery Argenti up every single time. But that's not what we're doing here. We're just doing E0 S0 on the free-to-play, or the most free-to-play option. And then unfortunately, he's just standing in a really rough spot. I actually think Ratio is better than him at E0 S0. But as a sub DPS, I think Argenti as a sub DPS for the Herda is actually really, really good. So his damage just comes from him doing his ultimate. He doesn't even need to use his skill that much. He can just stick to doing his ultimate and then have Herda kill everything. He gets energy while Herda's killing. He gets a lot of energy from him hitting as well, and from him doing his ultimate as well. So as a sub DPS for Pure Fiction, for example, or even MOC with the Herda, he is a very, very strong option, even though he doesn't really provide any other buffs like damage or defense reduction or anything like that. When you're talking about sub DPS, you're automatically assuming that there's another better DPS going on over here somewhere. So that's why we can put him in top without any consideration for teammate. All right, next up we got Topaz. As a main DPS, Topaz is actually not that crazy, but as a sub DPS, she also deals a lot of damage. It is very, very good. But the thing with Topaz is not only she's dealing a lot of single target damage. So in the teams that she is used, most likely Fei Zhao, for example, she is going to also enable a 50% vulnerability, which is pretty close to, I don't know, something like Tribi does, which is 30% vulnerability and 24% rest pen. Topaz is getting that 50% vulnerability on follow-up attacks, and that main use for that is going to be Fei Zhao, which is one of the best characters in the game. So I think Topaz as a sub DPS is a very, very strong character. Moving on to Jingliu. As a main DPS, Jingliu is unfortunately just bad. I think she's better than Kafka for sure, but she's definitely not better than Ratio in my opinion. As of this moment, hopefully she gets a buff sometime soon and she goes back to her glory days. But right now, even when she's on element, she's still having issues clearing, and it's just not worth. She's just really, really bad right now. So RIP to my Jingliu mains as well. On the same token, we have Mbibulune, and I think at E0 S0 he has access to the Fall of a Neon Lycon, which is a Herder Store 5-star Lycon, which is decent on him. It's not the best. He does lack the utility that Sunday brings to him with the skill points, or the utility that Sparkle brings to him with the skill points. So he's a little lacking at E0 S0 with free-to-play teammates. However, he does have access to RMC, which is a very, very strong supportive character. He also have access to 4-star Tingyun, which helps him a lot. I don't think he is as bad as Ratio, Jingliu, and Kafka. I think he's a little better, and I don't think he's in the level of these guys up top at tier 1. So I think tier 1.5 is pretty fair for Danny Boy. Moving on to Blade, and unfortunately the homie Blade is just dead in a ditch. I think Jingliu is a little better than him as of right now because we have no wind weak enemy. So every enemy we have has some sort of wind resistance, and that makes him worse than what he actually is. His damage multipliers aren't that great, and he just needs a lot of help. Even with Sunday being a thing and Tribi being a thing, it's still not enough to help our boy Blade be relevant. He's really, really bad. I still think he's better than Kafka, but I really hope they buff our boy because he is struggling. All right, next up we got Jing Yuan, the general himself. He's definitely better than the guys over here at tier 2. He does struggle from the same thing Ribbit Lune does, in which that Sunday makes him so much better. That Sunday and Sparkle make him so much better that without them, he's going to feel a little tough to run. He has access to Tingyun, he has access to RMC, but that's just not enough in my opinion. Like you're gonna have to really maximize his relics and his build and like min-max everything to make him perform at a high level to mimic, like they say, a fraction of the power of the guys up here. All right, so we got Zila, and I think Zila as a main DPS is in a rough spot. I think she may be a little bit better than Ratio in my... actually, no, she's not. She's probably in the same boat as Ratio. I'm going to put Ratio a little bit further on than her because his multipliers are... Not his multipliers, but his overall damage is just higher than Zila's, I think. And then she also suffered from the same thing as, you know, the meta is kind of AoE focused right now. So single target characters have a harder time dealing with the current meta, especially MOC. Apocalyptic Shadow is a little different. They can perform really well in Apocalyptic Shadow, but as DPSs as a whole, it takes a lot of investment to make a character like Zila work. So therefore, and then the damage you're getting from it is not that great in the first place. So for that reason, I'm gonna throw her in tier 2. All right, next up we got the standard banner character Yang Qing. He's just not great. We're gonna throw him in the end of tier 2. For one, a character that is not worse than Kafka. He's in a really tough state. He's single target. Multipliers are weak. He has a very bad passive, so he's just an overall just bad character. Hopefully he gets a buff sometime soon. And since we're only doing 5 stars for this list, finally we have Himeko, and in the current state of the game, when Super Break coming out, HMC being a thing, I think Himeko has a resurgence of damage. I think she's definitely in a worse spot than Jing Yuan, but she's definitely in a better spot than all these characters down here in the bottom. Almost one of the better characters to have for Pure Fiction. We're doing a free-to-play run over at my twitch.tv/iSUMMON, and Himeko has been carrying me through the entire thing pretty much. So he's a very strong character to have as a main DPS, and you can actually throw her as a sub DPS as well if you run her with like the Herda, or with mini Herda they can do like a duo DPS type of thing. So I think as DPSs, I think this is a pretty fair tier list. One change I want to make, I want to bring Black Swan down here, and then I'm going to bring Argenti down here because I don't feel comfortable leaving them in the same tier, because all these guys here that sub DPS tier 0, they not only they provide damage, they deal damage, but they also provide some sort of damage amplification for the team and for the teammates. So that makes him significantly a lot better. I'm going to move Argenti a little bit down, and then Black Swan down here in the bottom. I didn't want this video to be 2 hours long, so that's why we're not including 4 stars here, but I will make a 4-star tier list coming soon as well. We're going to be doing it live as we're doing this one. Again, over at twitch.tv/iSummonYT. All right, to close off the tier list, we're going to add Mighty since he is releasing this week. And frankly, from what I've seen, from what I've tested myself, he's is absolutely insane. Mighty is looking to be one of the better characters that we've gotten so far. And then judging from what I've seen in the future, he's probably better than some of the characters that are coming in the future. So I think he's actually up here next to the Herda. He's actually insanely strong, even at E0 as 0. He has like a few free-to-play options that you can have. And he also has a 4-star Lycon that I talked about in my Lycon video for Mighty. So check that out if you haven't. He's very strong, guys. His damage is very easy to get to. You don't need a lot to get him working, and he just wrecks. He just destroys everything. I do not think he's better than Herda, but I think he is better, or he's in a better position than these characters down here in the bottom, tier 0.5. He's definitely better than them, but he's definitely not better than Herda. So I'm gonna put him right here, and I think this is a very fair tier list. I think I evaluated the characters using Prydwens' own criteria, and this is how the tier list, in my opinion, should look like when it comes to DPSs and sub DPSs. I will be making a tier list for supports and sustains as well. So that's going to be next, probably coming tomorrow or the day after. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If this tier list a W or an L, put it in the comments. And until next time, guys, see ya.